You know, that's a nice fish, but even your grandmother can catch them like that.
Yeah, well, I guess I started when I was about 14, 13 or 14. And my dad used to fly fish in a lake, a local lake around here for largemouth bass and, panfish. So I kind of had an interest in it. And I learned to fly cast in the backyard, when I was about, 13 or 14. It was actually back in, I think, around 1975, so many years ago. So I got my son started at a really early age as well. I used to actually started with him fly fishing in the Catskill area for trout. Taught him how to fly fish. He caught on pretty quickly, and he's quite a fly tyer.
My dad got me into fly fishing at a young age, and since then I've been going down to the beach fishing for striped bass and bluefish and all the different local species since I could remember. And I started that off by going to the different lakes and rivers around the area, fishing for panfish like largemouth bass, sunfish, bluegill, crappie.
So we actually started tying flies when I was very young. Used to take feathers out of my mom's pillows and use some of the hair from the coats and just tie them on inexpensive hooks that we got at the Kmart or wherever, in a little tin. And they actually worked. They worked for catching panfish and some largemouth bass. We also tied some poppers using old corks and things like that. So that's how we got started. I really learned through an Orvis pamphlet, with me and my friends sitting there night after night trying to figure out how to tie these flies. So it was really, an instructional pamphlet through Orvis, back when we were kids. And that's how we got started. Used to do quite a bit of fishing conventionally for striped bass with spinning rods or conventional reels using live bait or lures. And while we did well with it, I remember in one instance where we were using live bait to catch some stripers. We were using live bunker and herring, and I caught a large striper, about 37 pounds, and I brought him home. And when I came home, my father said, "Yeah, anybody could do that, on live bait. That's what they eat." So after that, I sort of really went forward with the fly fishing and started, targeting them that way to make it a little bit more of a challenge, even the score, I guess, if you want to put it that way. The striped bass, feed on, they'll eat almost anything, but when you look at it, there's silver sides are spearing, they eat crabs. Silver sides are the smaller fish. They eat juvenile and adult bunker, and other fishes, but those are the primary fish that are in the area. And you just want to have a large profile fly for the bunker. White, green, any color is really good. Again, it depends. Really the key to success is being able to cast it properly and in the right spot. It doesn't have to be a perfect fly. Here's one for the bunker, medium-sized bunker or Manhattan. This is one of my favorites. It's a big eye, sort of half and half, or clouser. Half clouser, half deceiver, what they call it. Chartreuse is really a great color. There's an old saying, it ain't no use if it ain't chartreuse. So I've caught 90% of the fish on this fly. It really emulates any type of small bait fish, usually larger spearing or something like that. And the other thing is a popper, a small popper like this. You can tie them in different sizes. These work well in the summer or the fall when the snappers are around chasing other fish, and they get all tuned up, and they really target these poppers in the surf. So in fly fishing all these years, and looking back, even though when we started, some of the equipment that we used was not as good as it is today, maybe inferior in some ways, but it really hasn't changed much. When you look at what you can use, and the availability is a little bit better now as far as the materials, and really one of the misconceptions is it's very complicated and it's an expensive sport, but the reality is it can be very simple. You really only need maybe one rod. When you look at maybe a 10 weight for the stripers, And if you're fishing for trout, maybe a 5 weight. And there's many rods within the price range. There's really not I think people have a conception that there's a mystery, or it's very confusing about what flies to use. Really, you could really basically use 3 flies for stripers and catch fish most of the time. And even the same thing with trout in freshwater. If you have a couple of dry fly patterns and some subsurface patterns, you're good to go. So it just takes, you can't overthink it.